So now that we have done so far, now what we need to do is, so we created this hello world application and all those things, right? So now basically what I want to do is that I would probably delete this hello world application that was just to show that this particular thing is working like that. So I'll just go ahead and delete this hello world application. I don't need it anymore. In fact, I will create a new project over here instead of hello world. We want to create a project for some user interaction or something like that. Let me just go ahead and give it a name. So whatever it is, you'll see that. So let's say I'm going to call this thing user library. So that's the name I'm writing. So this is one thing. So here I changed it to this one. I'll go to the URLs file, right? So I added this particular path now that includes this particular one, right? So I might change this one also. We can delete the hello world directory itself. I mean, we don't need this directory at all. So you can just go ahead and delete this. Yeah, gone, right? So everything related to hello world is lost. I've deleted everything and we called it user library. So let us go ahead and let us try to create a user library over here. I'll just break it. Nice. We're creating a library project over here. So what we shall do is that we shall go ahead and write on Python manage.py start app user library. That's the name we're giving to it. What happened over here? Something went wrong in the settings.py. I'll just first of all remove it as of now. Have I kept it over here? I've kept it over here, right? I'll just remove this line as of now. And then let me try to run this. It was not creating because it was searching for these ones, whatever is written over here. And it was thinking that a user library should be already being there. It should not already be there. I'm creating this. So we just removed it from there and then we shall go and we shall just undo that change. Yes, so this thing comes into picture. So now we have got a particularly working situation of this particular thing. So now in this particular application, right? This is a user library application. We got all our files, folders, and every single thing, whatever we have typically. So now we will also go for adding a database in this particular. You can understand if I'm calling it a user library, it should be able to store some user related data, right? That should happen. So what we shall do, see, we will do one thing in this models.py that is over there. Let us go over there. So this model class actually talks with the database, right? So you can see from Django DB import model. So it is actually talking with the database. Let us try to. So the model file shall be always be doing the database introductions, right? And the view file will be related to showing whatever the output is coming on the web browser. So these are the functionalities of models and views. Remember this thing. Models is for talking to the database, and views is for actually displaying the data on the screen. So it says create your models here. I'm going to delete this line. I don't need it. I'm writing class. Let me create a new class called user. Okay. And I'm writing models.model. So this is coming from Django DB over here. From here it is being called. Right? From these models, I'm calling the dot model over here. And let me write down something within it. So let's say a user will be having what all things. A user shall be having username models dot. So now this is going to be a character field, right? So a lot of characters are going to be there. A usernames contains a lot of characters. I'm going to say char field. If there's a char field, that will become a field of characters, and you also have to specify how long you want this to be. So you can write down like max length equals to, let's say, 10 characters. A username should be always within 10 characters. That's what the idea is over here. Okay. Let's say we shall be storing the password as well. So we're writing models dot char field, and we're going to store it in max length of, let's say, password is going to be once again 10 characters long maximum. That's it. So these two things we're going to store, and also let's say the full name of the user, right? Which is going to be the model is a similar thing, but the only thing will be it will be a little bit longer. Let's say 40 characters, a big name, right? That's what it is, right? So we talked about the attributes that the user should have. It should have a username, should have a password, should have a full name. So now, see what is happening over here. Now that we have created this particular class over here, so Django has to create a database, right? According to this, and Django will do that. Django will definitely do that, right? So now what we shall be doing, see, now by default, the database it provides is SQLite. You can see there is a database called db.sqlite3, right? So this is the typical database that you will get. But in case you want to use some big databases like, let's say, MySQL, PostgreSQL, something like this, right? You can do that. I mean, that depends on which one you want to go for. So SQLite is a perfectly lightweight database that is used with Python. Otherwise, if you want to go with that one, you can go with bigger databases as well. Now, in order for starting the process to create the database, right? So you need to create the database. For doing that, we have to create a migration, right? You can see there is a folder called migrations over here. So basically, what happens is that we have to create a file with the migration class, right? Where we shall be defining all the process for creating this database. So we are going to do this particular thing. So what I shall do, being in the this particular thing, I'll be creating a new thing once again, Python, let's say manage.py, and I shall be writing make migrations. Remember, make migrations, and then your project name, user library. Migrations for user library slash migrations slash 001 underscore initial this file dot py has been created, right? Open it up. Now see, it is telling the current date and all those stuffs. So, and then you can see it is talking about, so it is telling it is 11th of February 2020. It is being told over here 2:28 is the time. It is taking the UTC time, right? So if you have add 5:30 with it, it will become your current time anyway. So it is telling that 2:28 like that. Now over here, let's say if you see this particular thing, what we have, the name is going to be user, right? It is going to create a database model. So whenever you find out this part, just look into the operation part. That's it. So in database, it will be having four fields. One is the ID of the user. So this field we did not add, if you remember. We did not tell to add it any ID, but it automatically did so. It decided that I am going to create some users, so I need to give some identifier so that I can identify which user is which user later. Or let's say it makes the operations much more easier. So what it did, it actually created an ID field over here. And it is telling that it is auto created is true, means automatically this ID will be getting generated every single time. The user, let's say if I do some entry, if I try to make an entry from the front end or whatever, I do not need to give the ID. The ID will be automatically generated. It is our primary key, so primary key equals to true. So automatically created will be true and it will be the primary key. And then comes here the other parts. That is the username, password, and full name. So it has actually created a complete database specific structure from this particular code what we had written over here. If I keep on adding and deleting stuffs and I migrate that, it will keep on changing this particular thing over here, right? Let us open up the shell over here. We can actually use the shell over here. That will be nice, right? So you can just go ahead and you can write down something. What you can do is that, see, I'm just showing you the database thing is working, right? Just this much, nothing else. So let us say I'm going to write down, we'll need Python manage.py shell. See, this is coming up. So you can write things over here. So I'm writing that from user underscore library dot models import user, right? So user is our model name. I'm importing that over here. All right. And I'm going to write down like this. Let's say u1 is our first user, okay? User1 equals to user, and then I'm writing certain things. Username equals to, let's say, Pramod, for example. Small I'm writing, let's say Pramod, like this. Okay, I should have put a comma actually. Then comes the password. So password equals to, let's say I'm writing 12345. And then comes your full name. Let's say I'm writing full name equals to Pramod Reddy. Right, so this much I'm doing, putting this part. And then I'm writing, let's say, user1.save. If I do so, oh, there is no such table that is telling. All right, that's a big error we have got. Let me try with characters only. Username equals to Pramod, comma. Then let's say password equals to Pramod itself. Full name equals to, let's say, Pramod Reddy. No, it's not taking. The SQL it is telling is failing. No such table user library user. Okay, that's a pity. Let me open up this one, db SQLite 3. There's nothing in this one. This should have created the entire thing. I'm not sure why this manage is not actually working. It should have worked out perfectly. It is not creating a table that is telling. It is just saying that the table is not there. I mean, there was no such table user library underscore user. Okay, it didn't create the table. That's what it is telling. I created this migration structure, but I never did actually do the migration. So let me do that. So let me migrate this particular one, right? So let me migrate the user library. Now it will start working. Yes. So now this actually applied this particular change, whatever it did, right? Would you see anything over here? Yes, you can see. This is not readable, okay? I just opened up to see if it has got something or not. This data is not readable in this format, but the data is being stored, right? So now we can go for actually playing with the things that we started. So we can go to the shell, first of all. Python manage.py shell, right? So let's go in the shell. Let's write down the things. So let's say user one equals to, I need to import it first from user underscore library, and let's say dot models import user. That's what our username is, user. Yes. Now let's write down certain things over here. Let's go for creating users. So user one equals to user, and then write down the things whatever you have. So one is user name equals to Pramod, password equals to, let's say, 12345, and then the last thing, let's say full name equals to Pramod Reddy, and user one dot save should work out right now. And here we go, without any error, right? So we saved one user. Let us quickly create another user. I'll create another user with the name Vaishnavi, let's say. User two equals to user, username equals to Vaishnavi, password equals to, let's say, QWERTY, and full name capital V Vaishnavi. So this is how we shall differentiate. And go like user2 dot save. Nice. So now we have got two entries in our database. We have got two users over here, right? So now what we'll try to do, we'll try to create a view class. First of all, an HTML file to create, so that we can actually go ahead and we can display this data on the screen. So from the database, we shall be pulling out the data and displaying on the screen, right? That's what we are trying to do. Let's say over here. Let us do one thing. First of all, let's start over here in our view. As of now, there is nothing. Created views, I'll delete this line, right? So there is nothing as of now. Let me import user library dot models import user. I need this, right? Because I want to display the user data over here. So I'm defining a new function. Let us say we want to do something like this. We just want to display the full names first, okay? So I want to display the full name, let's say Vaishnavi Pramod, like this. So when you click on that, then we'll enter a section where we shall find out the username, the password, and the full name, right? So username and password by default will not be shown. Only the user's full name will be shown. That's it. When you click over there, you'll find out the username and the password. Let's say that is more or less what we're going to do. So I am to first make a user full name index. Okay, just the full names I'm trying to show over there, which takes a request parameter. I'm going to write down like this. So let's say, okay, so let's say I'm going to do like this, that users, okay, I'm going to call this equal to user dot object, but the only thing is that it will not be highlighted or anything. So you can go like objects, this works, but in PyCharm it does not show anything. So that's the problem with PyCharm. Fine, cool. I cannot do anything about it. So I'm writing context equals to, I'll tell you what I'm doing over here. I'm creating a dictionary. I'm just saying that users, and I'll return, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'll explain this code. Vendor, once again, the same thing that we did the last day, request, and the file name is going to be, let's say, user full name index.html. Okay, I'll tell you what I did over here. First of all, I fetched all the data from user database, right? So whatever is right now stored in user database, I'm just pulling it. So when you do user.objects.all, it pulls all the data from the user's database. Now you remember already I have put the user one and user two data over here, right? One is Pramod Reddy, one is Vaishnavi. These two data are already there in the database. Then what I'm doing, I'm creating a dictionary, okay? I'm just creating a dictionary called context. So what will happen over here is, so what will happen if I do so, then it will be creating a dictionary where all the users details will be stored under the user's name over here, right? So it will be like users, and under that all the data that I pulled just now, that will be stored over here. Okay, so now here what will happen, I'm sending this entire dictionary. In fact, I'm calling this particular view. So I'm calling the render function, right? So render function, what does the render function do? Render function tells that this particular file has to be displayed. That's what it does. So there, while calling the render function, as a parameter, I'm passing the context. So I'm sending all my user details to this particular page. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, so this is the main idea. All these things has to be sent to this particular page. Let us go to our URLs over here. So you can see that this is where we are. So you can delete this entire thing over here. I'll just create a new file over here called your URLs. Okay, new Python file called urls.py. Now urls.py, I have already explained you why this file exists, right? So urls.py is a file that actually talks about all the URLs. When you hit a URL, what happens, right? So I'll just include this particular one over here also. I don't think I need the include. I can just take the path. That's it. URL patterns. I'll write out one here also. I'll just copy it once again from here to make sure we avoid all kinds of issues. Copying this, pasting it. Okay. So now there is nothing called admin as of now. So I'm going to write down a blank path, right? Nothing. A blank path. I'm going to write down now in this views. I need to import the views because I want to use this one, right? Whatever I'm rendering. So I'll input the views. So from current folder, import views. Dot means current folder. Okay, means the views and this one is the same folder, no? So that's why I'm using just from dot import views. That's it. Now I want to write down views dot user, right? So now inside my views, I've got this function, right? I'll be using this one, user full name index, right? So this is the one. I'll remove the brackets from here and I'll add the same name once again within single quotes. That's the way, right? User full name index. You remove the bracket sign from here, the parenthesis sign, and you copy and paste the thing over here once again, and that should be good to go. So this is one part that we are adding. We are telling this particular thing, but now what else we can do is that we have added this particular thing. We can also do this one. See, we can add another path over here. You will understand which path is doing what absolutely when you see the output, right? As of now, just stick on to this. So I'm going to write down int pk slash. I'll tell you what it means. I'll do one thing. I will create another function over here. You remember I told that in one I want to show you the index of the name, only the full name, and another one is the entire data. So I'll create another function over here. I'll call this thing user detail, right? Which also takes a request and let's say text a primary key. It takes a primary key so that it can show the data. You remember that every user had got a primary key, right? So it can actually show the particular thing according to that particular primary key itself. So it'll go like user equal to user dot object. So once again, it will not be shown over here. Get pk equals to pk. So this pk equals to, I need to write what primary key we are passing. Since our variable is also called pk, we are writing pk over here. So pk equals to pk means whatever primary key is being sent. So users will be having their own primary keys. You don't need to know what the primary keys are. They'll automatically create them and you can use them. That's it, right? So once I do so, I'll again create a context, right? So this time I'll call it in a singular variable. I'll call it context equals to, I'm going to call this thing, let's say user instead of users. Remember here it was users. I'm writing user over here, no s, and I'm saying user. That's it. So I created this context and I'll be returning this one also. So I can call both of them. Return, let's say render, and this particular one, the first is the request. So the request goes over here. The second is the HTML file. We're going to create a HTML with the name user detail.html, and the context we shall send here as well. So now when we come to the URLs over here, so see what I'm going to do, I'm going to use that one. So user detail, right? So I'm going to use the user detail over here. Once again, no need to write down the brackets. You can ignore that. In the name, write the same name once again. Exactly this name, user detail. So this much I have done. So this is more or less good to go. Okay, so I have written the both the URL, but now see, understand what happens in line number 5, this one, right? So what happened over here? It's just telling over here that root URL, right? Root URL means this one blank. If you do not write anything, that is connected to the this particular function. User full name index means that will show you all the index listing. So whatever users are there, all the usernames will be displayed over there. Usernames mean the full names, Pramod Reddy, Vaishnavi, like that, right? And in this one, we have not yet told it to show the full name, by the way. We just told that call that function, that's it. And in this one, we have to do that in the HTML page. And here in this one, what we are telling, we are basically telling that whenever someone writes down an integer primary key, let's say, something, 5, 10, whatever the primary keys are, right? Then we're doing in basis of primary key, we can do in basis of anything. We'll see every single thing. As of now, let's look into the basis of primary key itself. So when someone puts a primary key and puts a slash, then they should be seeing that user detail of that particular user. That's the idea. So if there is user 1 and user 2, if you press 1, then you should be able to see the details of user 1. If you do 2, you should be able to see the details of 2, right? I'll do one thing. In this URLs, I need to add this line, right? So I'll just go ahead and I'll write down like path, and I'll give the path of this particular project, if you remember. So it is going to be put in double quotes. That's it. I mean, in quotes, put it. User underscore library dot URLs. That's it. This one, user library URLs, right? Instead of slash, you're putting a dot. So that's what we're asking it to include. Whenever someone hits user library slash, it should always take that one, right? Let us try to see. As of now, this will not work out, okay? I mean, even though you're asking it to work out, nothing will happen because we did not have the HTML file at all, right? So if you remember, we told that we have to use the views. We have told that we want to use this particular HTML files, which are not there as of now. So let us create a templates folder. If you remember, right? We have to create a templates folder, correct? So what we shall do, we'll come over here in the user library. We'll right click on this. We'll create a new folder called templates. And within that, we'll create a new file. I'll give this particular name. This is one HTML file, correct? Now here, what I need to do, we will be required to do a lot of things actually. Okay, I'll tell you what I need to do. First of all, let's put we don't need all these things, but anyway, let's give it a title, say the user index. All right, in the body, let us start playing with this. So now I'm going to give it a heading of, let's say, user index, just that user index, right? And below that, I have to write a for loop, right? If I don't write a for loop, how am I going to use it? So I need to run a loop to get all the users. So see how to do this particular thing. You have to put a curly bracket and a percentage sign. And you have to end that with a percentage sign and curly bracket. So this is how you write down Python things over here. Because normally you cannot write down Python in an HTML, right? If you want to write that, you have to do it in this particular way. So now what we shall do, we shall write that for. Now, if you remember, the context I was sending was known as users. So I write for user in users. Okay, see what I'm doing. For user in users, I'll just make it in the same line. That will be a little bit easier to read. We can mix up HTML code and we can mix up HTML code and Python code together. For user in users, okay, what I want to do, I want to basically show the name one by one. I just want to print the name, let's say, okay. So I'll kind of, as of now, the click will not work out. I'm not making them links. I'm just printing the name. That's it. Nothing else. Okay, let us have a link itself, right? As of now, the link will not work. But anyway, let us have the link. So we have to write down something over here. href equals to, that's how we write down HTML pages. So let's say we want to write down this particular thing. I have to write down 2 curly braces and end with 2 curly braces. And in between, you have to write down what you want to write down. So we have to write down user dot full name. That is what I'm trying to show, right? User dot full name. That is the thing I'm trying to show over here. So I'm telling that for this particular thing, I'm going to do this. And once you have done it, you have to write down end for, right? You have to write down end for. And that's how it will understand that the for loop is ending here, because you can see there is no colon or anything over here, right? So the for starts over here, ends over here. That's it, done. But another thing is that this particular code right now will not work. Why will it not work? Because we can just delete this particular parts. I don't need the all the HTML things. Now this thing, whatever you're seeing over here, now the HTML by default doesn't understand that what these things are all about. Typically, this is not the cases for HTML. So what we shall do, we shall be actually telling that this is a lot of things you have to do over here. First of all, you have to always use this syntax like bracket percentage and percentage bracket. Okay, let me do like this. Let me say load static. And then let me do another thing. Let me write down percentage, let's say block page underscore content. Okay. And here at the end, we shall say that the block is ending, end block. Right. So let us see if this is working so far or not. Right. So this one is basically, let us see if what we can do about that. Right. So this should work out as of now. Let us try to find out in case it does. In case it does not, then we have to find out what we can do about it. Let's go ahead. Let us try to see this. So let us try to this one. I mean, you might delete this also. This is typically added always to make sure that if there is some images and all those things you're trying to show in the, let's say all the user comes with a user image, not only user name, right? User image is also there. In that case, you would require this load static. As of now, for our case, it is not required, but anyway, let it be, not an issue. So let me exit out over here. Let me go ahead and let me start the particular project, right? So, oh, it showed page not found. Fine, fine. I want to write down user library, user underscore library. See, we got two users, right? Pramod Reddy and Vaishnavi. Right now, if we click on them, nothing will happen. Absolutely nothing. Nothing will happen. But these two are coming, right? So no matter how many you have, you will find out all those. Acha. Now we'll do a change. We'll do some little changes over here. We'll keep on doing some changes. First thing is that while printing in the HTML, I want it to be print in the next line, not instead of the same line every time. So I'll just add this line. So now if I refresh, it should come in the next line, right? Pramod Reddy on top, Vaishnavi on top. Now the thing is that notice I don't have the details page, right? Let me create a details page also. So what was the name of this particular page? User detail. Let me create this particular page, HTML page, user.html. I'll quickly create one new HTML file. I'll write this. I'll delete all this data from here. I'll copy this entire data from here. Oh, I'll change it. Okay. So this time I'm going to call this thing user details, right? And for okay, user and users doesn't make sense anymore because it is not users, it is the user which is coming over here. I'm getting the user. So I'm calling this thing user attribute. So I want to print all this data. See how. So first of all, instead of calling it an a tag, I'm going to call it a, let's say give it a label first. So the first one is user, let's say full name, right? And before that, we'll have another one. That is the username. Then is the password, right? And that's the full name, let's say. Or maybe the full name I don't want to show over here. I just want to show the username and the password. So I'll just say username and this one and password and this one. So this one has to be loaded when I hit a particular user's ID. Now the thing is that I don't yet know what is the ID of the particular user. So how do I make it smaller once again here? So if I need to find out the IDs, right? So I will do one thing. See, I will exit out of this once again, control break, and I'll enter the, oh, the other options are gone. Shell. And what I shall do, let me see this. Select, if this works, star from user underscore library underscore user. What happened over here? What is wrong over here? Fine, leave it. Let me come back. Let me exit this. Let's not go into database activities right now. So let us do one thing. See what I want to do. I know that whatever this particular guy has got, I mean, if I just for a time being, if I just print the ID instead of the full name, just for the time being, right? We shall do it in a different way. Don't worry. Let me run the server and let me go and let me refresh this page. So it is printing 1 and 2, right? The IDs. So what happens if I press 2 over here? Okay, what happened this one? User is not iterability is telling, okay, I don't need a for loop over here. This one. This is more than enough. User.username. Let us try to refresh. See, username and password is coming, right? If I write down one, for user one, it will come. Where is it? One. Pramod and password is coming. So that we want to automate that when I click here, it automatically happens. How do I do so? Instead of once I will come back, instead of printing the ID, print the full name itself and the ID password here. How? See, it has to, it can just go over here. That's it. See, it comes to Pramod. If I click on this one, it comes to Vaishnavi. And we can insert as many number of data we want over here. So this is what is happening over here. So always whenever I need to print a data, I have to print it like this. How am I getting this user and all those things? Because that is what I sent, if you remember in the context. Here I sent users, here I sent user. These ones actually. Users and user. So that is how I am going to work on this particular. If I send multiple things, I can operate on multiple things. So whichever I am sending, wherever I can use them. So the users context is being sent over here. So here I can use from user of users, right? So the users can be used over here. And this one is just user. So that's what I'm sending over here, just the user, right? And I'm using that particular context over here, this one. So that's why I'm using this particular thing. We can add many more data in the database, and as soon as we add, we'll be able to see that from here. So you can see all your user. You can store complete user data over here, right? So not username, password. You can store 10, 15 lines of data for a user, and that data will be displayed over here.